and thanks for joining us for the Prepped and Polished radio show. I'm your host, Alexis Avila. I'm a licensed guidance counselor, private tutor, and founder of Prepped and Polished LLC Tutoring and Test Prep in beautiful South Natick, Massachusetts. The Prepped and Polished radio show is your educational insider. Our show is brought to you by Prepped and Polished LLC, where I'm the principal educator. To learn more about our firm, please visit preppedandpolished.com. And thank you to everyone who is listening to the program. We appreciate you taking interest in the information we bring to families and educators around the globe. For future shows, updates, and ongoing relevant education news, please join our Facebook community by searching for Prep and Polished and clicking like. And you can follow us on Twitter at Prep Polished. Joining our show today is Rebecca Donovan. Rebecca is a USA Today best-selling author. Her debut novel, entitled Reason to Breathe, and her Breathing series has resonated with readers, especially teens, around the world and continues to grow in popularity. Rebecca has a degree in psychology from the University of Missouri, Columbia. After graduating from college, Rebecca worked with teens in social services for over 3 years. Then she made a career change and worked within the event industry for 12 years, particularly wedding planning. She's been a writer most of her life and recently published her first book, Reason to Breathe, in 2011. We're delighted to have Rebecca on our show. She's going to share with us her experiences becoming a professional teenage fiction writer and give us a few tips about how kids and adults can tap into their creative writing potential and perhaps one day become successful writers themselves. Before we start, I want to make sure our listeners have our contact info. Our email address is radio@preppedandpolished.com. If you'd like to submit a question at any time, you can use that email address. Often our listeners will have questions as they're listening or afterwards, and we always appreciate hearing from our listeners. So you can email us at any time at radio@preppedandpolished.com. Rebecca, are you there on the line?
Yes, I am. How are you, Alex?
Great, thanks.
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Fabulous, thanks. I have a little bit of a sore throat, so if my voice cracks, don't bother listening to that.
Okay, we won't hold it against you at all. So, when I was trying to schedule this interview with you, you were in the West Coast. I believe you were in Los Angeles. So I know you were recently finishing your third book. So what brought you to LA? What were you doing out there?
Well, I like to call her my writing partner. Now that I'm published with professional publishing houses, I have my own editing team. Before that, when I was an indie writer, she acted as my editor in all sense of grammatic and sentence structure and content. So she's still a writing partner for me. She lives out in the Ventura County area, which is right north of LA. And the book itself, the third book, Out of Breath, takes place mainly in that area as well, Santa Barbara. So it was great inspiration. It was great to be able to work one-on-one with her versus, over the internet or through email. So it was just a nice writing experience, sitting there right on the ocean and having that just look at every day.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah, that is inspiration. Could you tell us a little bit, Rebecca, about your book series, the Breathing series, and a little bit about your journey so far as a successful author?
Well, the series is based on a girl who has a hard home life. She has an abusive home life. She has a difficult past. And just coming to terms with all of that and just letting her life and her story unfold with repercussions of having to heal, having to make choices that are difficult for anyone that's in that type of situation. And so it's resonated with so many people because of the realistic way I've chosen to portray it. I didn't hold back in the abuse that she goes through and the trauma that she has to endure. And I've received countless emails from so many people, so many survivors of child abuse who have thanked me for telling her story and giving them a voice and showing the world that this does exist. And so it's been an amazing journey because it's happened by word of mouth. It's happened because my readers are so passionate and so excited about this that as soon as they're done reading it, they have to tell the next person, or they can't wait to share it with someone else, or to have someone else emotionally go through it with them. So it's been surreal, and I've enjoyed every step of the process.
That makes a lot of sense, because, when I was researching, looking at your blog and all the social media, you're out there, and I could see all those letters, in response to these characters that they're reading. So true.
Yeah, they truly connect with them like they're real people, and that's amazing.
Can you just tell us a little bit, I don't want you giving away spoilers or anything, but who's Emma and Evan, these main characters I keep hearing about in your books, and why do you think teens relate to these characters?
Emma is the main character. It's first person through her perspective. So she starts in the first book, she's 16, she's a junior in high school. She lives with her aunt and uncle, and her aunt is not welcoming of her invading basically her life and her home, and is abusive towards Emma. And Emma has to hide this from everyone, with the risk of losing her two younger siblings to the foster care system, or just being removed from the home. And she doesn't want that life for them, because their parents truly do love them. So she's basically sacrificing herself in hopes of just getting through high school and getting off to college and just being done with them. Evan is a love interest, in truth. He's a transfer. He doesn't know anything about her. Doesn't know anything about her personality, her style of life, and he's intrigued by her. The rest of school has pretty much dismissed her as just someone that lurks in the shadows and doesn't participate. She excels in everything, but she doesn't give a sizable contribution so that she's recognized by any of her peers socially. So Evan's intrigued by her, and he wants to know more about her. So I think that because I surround them by high school, the essence of what high school is, the football games, the parties, the day-to-day gossip, that keeps them grounded in this real world of what high school is. But the characters themselves are not the normal teenagers. Obviously, there's not a lot of teenagers that have to endure the average teenager doesn't have to endure the abuse that Emma has to go through. There are teenagers that do, but that's not the average high school experience. And Evan, he travels with his parents. He goes from school to school, and he's had to age beyond his years because he's always thrust into these adult situations. And I think that's one of the reasons he recognizes Emma as being different. There's something about her, and any other teenage boy would just have dismissed her as stuck up, or she's just not interested. But he sees more of her than she's letting the rest of the world or the rest of her peers see. So I let them be the difference than what the average high school experience is, and I think that's what draws readers to them, is because they're just so intense. I guess it's the best way to put it.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. You have to go for the jugular to make it resonate with people. So Rebecca, let's find out a little bit about you. Did you read and write a lot growing up? I've
always read. It's so funny because YA was never my particular genre of reading. So when I wrote for it, it was kind of ironic. I was more of a horror fiction, crime novel, realistic crimes, actually. That was my take on the world of, my readership. So I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And that was what I read growing up. And writing, I always had a journal. I was always very imaginative, even as a child, just with the stories I would create in my head, or whether I was able to write them down for assignments and such. I was always writing. I never took the chance to write a novel until a couple of years ago, but I've always considered myself a writer. I've always been very expressive, very imaginative. So, yeah. And
so I think that answers the question, what you were like as a teen. I mean, you were submerged in, you were submerged in books.
Right. No, I was, I have a bit of Emma-isms, I suppose, in the early part of my teen years. I was quiet and not really social, and I was in advanced placement classes in my first couple of years in high school, but then it tends to be the opposite, is that the more social I became, less my grades were as stellar. But
yes.
I was, but I still was up, in the advanced classes of English and bio and in math classes and such. So I loved school, and I totally immersed myself in it. I was the editor of my high school paper. I did some photography for it. So I was able to draw from my experiences, and that's, where my comfort zone was when I created Emma, but giving her a completely different world. So it was me growing up. I was a little bit awkward at first, and then I kind of grew into myself, as probably most teens do.
Absolutely. Now, do you, we work with like students here at Prepped and Polish, and I'm always kind of thinking about them, but, do you have any tips for students who like to write, but it doesn't come naturally to them? Well, I guess my question is, do you have to be someone who was always a writer to become a writer? Or can you learn it?
I think it's part of you. You write because it's who you are. It's just a need that you have. It's a story in your head that keeps, going on. And the only way you can get it out is through paper or through acting it out. It's some sort of art form. So it's a form of expression. So it's an idea I consider an art. Writing, whether it's painting or acting, it's a way of expressing what's already inside of you. I think it's your essence, and whether your talent of it, that can be molded. That can be taken through classes, through there's creative writing classes, and there's groups, and there's just teachers and educators. So taking something that's already there and helping you shape it so that the world can, be a part of it. I think that's how you can become a writer.
Yeah, I think I really understand. And I love that analogy with the art form, because you don't hear enough of that. Like writing is like an art form where you have to feel it from within, and you also have to, own your craft and work on it.
Exactly. It's not, you just don't write something and put it out there and the world takes it and says, this is brilliant. I mean, it would be amazing if that happened. Yeah. But there's more rejections than there are acceptances. And that's, but that doesn't mean that you should give up. You write it because that's what you need to do. Whether the world accepts it, you can't control that. That's outside. That's, subjective. What you put on paper, how you create it, what the effort, the time, the love that you put into it is what you have control over. Right.
And do you have any tips for students who love to write and want to make a career out of it?
The career part, I can't say it's going to exactly pay your bills, but it could be something that, in time as your talent grows, if it's something the world is ready for, you can certainly, there are so many almost risk-free in a way, ways of exposing your writing through independent publishing, through Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Apple. You don't have to put any money forward for it. It's just you have to have a polished manuscript. And so with that being said, write, get critiqued by everybody, especially, if you have English teachers or some, peers that you respect, get opinions, help create it and make it better, and then edit it some more because there's never enough editing. And have it professionally edited, and then you can create a story and that you can let the world read and see what happens. And once you put it out there, it's either going to rise to the top, or it's just going to just be out there. So you just have to have that confidence and just keep persevering.
Yeah. And I think that transcends to a lot of careers.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does.
So Rebecca, what do you do on your off time when you don't write?
I'm a huge music fan, so I go to concerts a lot. So okay. I will travel to concerts. I went to Austin this year, to Austin City Limits. I think I'm going to go to Coachella next year. So I usually go to at least like 2 or 3 concerts a month. Wow. I'm just a huge music fan. So it's a great way. And it's also another art for me. I'm such a huge fan of lyrics and just listen to the music and what is being said, the poetry behind the words. And it's just, I'm in awe of the musicians as much as I'm a writer myself. It's just a completely different realm. So I love it.
So are we going to be hearing Rebecca Donovan, the singer, after your writing?
Oh, no, you do not want me to sing. I promise you that.
Okay.
No, but I would like to get to know that world a little bit more. So one of the projects that I'm working on in the future, and I'm still at the very, very beginning stages of it, is bringing awareness to child abuse. And part of that is perhaps creating my own foundation to do so. And with that, I would love to bring musicians on board and have benefit concerts and melding my two worlds and doing all of that to bring awareness and to do what I love and have that be a part of raising that awareness and raising the money for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed on your website you have a link to the Child Help USA and National Domestic Violence Hotline. And they these two organizations, they're obviously important to you. Yeah,
well, it's writing such a serious topic of child abuse. I think it was just a responsibility I felt I needed to share with anyone that's in that situation, that if they are able to connect with the story, and because it's something that they're going through or know someone they're going through, and they are going to explore my site, I want them to know that these organizations exist, that there's help, that they're not alone in any of this, that there's someone out there that can guide them. And so they're nationally recognized organizations, and I just want to make sure that they have the information there as they're involved in the story, the Emma story.
Awesome. So when will your third installment of the Breathing series come out? I know you have two that came out. The first one is Reason to Breathe. The second installment is, what is it? Which one?
Barely Breathing.
Barely Breathing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Out of Breath. Yep. Out of Breath. Yep. Out of Breath will be out in June. So
June. Okay.
Yep. So I just got signed by Amazon Publishing, and they will be re-releasing both Reason to Breathe and Barely Breathing in the spring, and launching the new Out of Breath, which no one will have read before then, in June. So it's just a new process where they take what I've written and they just go through and they do their, as I said, there's never enough editing, so they're going to go through their editing process with those two books that have already released and resubmit them. And they're going to, because it's publishing, I'll be in print form more than I am now. Right now, most of my sales and distribution has been through ebooks. So it's been, that's insane considering I'm a bestseller, but it's all been electronic. And knowing that the print version hasn't even been really released yet. So I can only imagine that it's going to get that much better and have that much, broader release into the world. And I also have been signed with other international publishers in different countries, in the UK and Russia and Hungary and Brazil. So it's going to be worldwide pretty soon. It's pretty exciting.
And, since 2011, you put out 3 books. So I just can't imagine how many books you're going to have put out in about 5 years. So I think you're at a wrap.
I'm a slow writer, in truth. In comparison to my fellow authors, some are putting 2 or 3 books out a year, and I tend to be putting one a year. So that's a little slow in the perspective of the writing world. I'm hoping that 2013, now that I'm a full-time author, before I've had to divide my time with a full-time job and writing. So this year, I've been grateful to be able to just concentrate on being an author and writing. So 2013, I'm hoping to put a couple books out instead of just the one, and continue on that avenue of creating more for my audience.
Well, that is incredible, and we are all supporting you, and we're big fans. So thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on today.
It was my pleasure.
Well, this wraps up our show today with Rebecca Donovan of the Successful Breathing series. Please visit RebeccaDonovan.com to learn more about Rebecca's writing and books. I also highly recommend checking out Rebecca's blog, which can be found on her site, and join her Facebook fan page to get updates on her work. You can purchase all of Rebecca's books by going on her website or on Amazon. Thank you for joining us on the Prepped and Polished Radio Show.